Should you be changing everything that you're doing right now and looking for a new opportunity and pivoting your business? Or should you be sticking with your current strategy and playing out what you had planned to do prior to coronavirus even existing? Now, that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves right now, to pivot or not to pivot. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I see a lot of people changing everything that they're doing and looking at new opportunities. And I want to kind of go through some of my experience about what I've had happen in my life over the past years when I've done big changes like that, and how I now look at making big changes. And really, like right now, I'm seeing companies like Grendadilla Swimwear, one of our greatest South African brands creating great swimwear. They're now selling groceries on their website. They've pivoted completely. And I see so many people selling, quickly changing their business around just to get stock of hand sanitizers and masks. And that's becoming an increasingly competitive space. My word. That's a very competitive space to be in right now. And is that going to be a long-term strategy, or is that just like a survival metric or something that people can do right now to get business while things are quiet in their regular business? Now, I've always had this thing about, and this is a lesson I've had to learn the hard way multiple times over, is the danger of the shiny object syndrome. As being an entrepreneur, I think that the shiny object syndrome is like the curse of being an entrepreneur, because as you're building your business and as you are getting momentum in one business, you kind of see something over there and you're like, oh, that looks nice. And you change. And when you change, you lose the momentum that you've created in the business that you had already set up. And I always feel like it's such a temptation for us entrepreneurs, because as entrepreneurs, we're always looking at opportunities. And to be completely honest, as entrepreneurs, there are opportunities everywhere. The thing that you need to ask yourself is which opportunity is right for you and your business. So when should you be chasing or making changes in your business, and when should you pivot? Let me stick this camera up over here quickly so I can free up my hands. Okay, that looks better. So there we go. Okay, cool. So I got some notes because I wanted to get through some specifics with you guys today, and I'll try and keep this as short as possible. But some of the times I've learned this lesson myself is like, many times actually, if I've tried to start different businesses, what I've seen is that if I'm not all in, if I'm not giving my full attention to an opportunity, then I'm not getting the momentum that I wanted. And you would have seen with your own business or anything that you're involved in, if you're creating anything, when you give your full attention and focus to something, you get into this zone of genius where you start to have ideas coming to you in the shower, in the middle of the night. And when you're in that headspace, then it's so much easier to create great stuff, to get that momentum. But there's a danger of changing your headspace. There's actually like a bit of scientific research around changing headspace. There's a term around this which hopefully pops back into my head, but it's proven that when you are changing from one idea to another or one business to another, then you lose like 30% of your momentum that you were getting there. Because it takes you quite a while to shift and change ideas. You would have seen it if you're ever working on a project and you like in the zone, and maybe your kid interrupts you, or you've got to go to the grocery store, or something happens. For you to get back into that zone takes a long time. Or if you're in the zone on one idea and then you need to change to go and look at something else, it takes you a while to kind of think about what you were thinking about yesterday or last week and to get back into that zone of genius. And when you are changing consistently like that, you lose so much of your headspace and you lose that momentum. So I've learned this lesson myself time and time again, and I keep kicking myself whenever I make this mistake of chasing shiny objects. The most recent experience I had was last year. A wonderful e-commerce website, a South African brand. They gave me 50% shares in the business if at no cost, if I would just help them grow the business. And it was such a good deal. And despite the fact that I've learned this lesson so many times previously, I went ahead and I signed that deal and started kind of sharing my time between growing in soccer and growing that business. And as soon as I did it, I realized the mistake I'd made, because every time I was working on one, I would feel a bit of guilt around not working on the other one. And then I would change. But every change I made, it would take me a while to get that momentum going, to get into that headspace. So I'm not a fan of doing multiple things. Part of that discussion when I took on those shares of that business was, the owner, the guy who owns that company, he kind of convinced me with this analogy to say, you know, if you have more fire pokers and more fires, then you're more likely to come right. But I've come to completely disagree with that. I'm all of the opinion that getting into one zone of genius and focusing on one product or one business idea, one opportunity is ultimately the way to get into your zone of genius. And when you're in that zone, then that's when good ideas just naturally flow to you. When you can build out supplier networks, when you can think of great business deals and offers and promotions and discounts to be doing, and you can build a community and a customer base. And that is, in my opinion, the way to be doing it. So I know some of you guys listening, you're in a situation where perhaps you need to change. Like out of necessity, you have to change because maybe the strategy that you had set and you're trying to follow isn't working for you, and you absolutely have to change. So if you have to pivot, if you had to make a change in your business, then what would I suggest? Like, how would I suggest you look at doing that, right? And that comes down to understanding the value of your current network, understanding the value of your knowledge of your current space that you're working in, whatever industry you're in. You can't underestimate how much you know about that industry. If you opened up your phone right now and you scroll through your contact list, just imagine or just take a look and recognize how many contacts you have in the industry that you're already in, no matter what it is. The industry that you're in, you have mental momentum, you have a community, you have a network of connections, and that is invaluable. If you were to go into a completely different industry and you now need to start phoning around to say, well, who's the suppliers of this? Who do I speak to about that? How do I do this? Imagine you're taking yourself back to square one. So my advice for anybody who is looking to make a substantial change in the way that they operate their business or in their strategy is to look at opportunities within your current industry, to look at ways that you can expand your business and products that you could maybe add on that are within your own zone of genius. Because as you think about that, you probably have the phone number for the person who owns that company, the supplier, or maybe you know somebody who can make an introduction to you. If you go into a completely different industry, you are starting from scratch, and to get that momentum will take you so much longer. And I really think that anybody who is looking at making substantial change in their business to pivot, and maybe out of necessity you have to pivot, but I'd strongly advise and just ask you to think about looking at opportunities in your own industry. And if you just lean back in your chair after this video call and think about like different products that could fit with your customer base, or different opportunities that you could look at within your own industry, and then think about all the people that you know who could help you out, or people that you could phone to make an introduction to people that could help you out. That is invaluable, and I'd love you to not underestimate the value of that, because as you're looking at expanding and making those changes, if you're going back to square one, if you're looking at a completely new industry, completely different industry, because yes, the grass always looks greener on the other side, but really it's going to take you so long, and you don't know who the competitors are, you don't know who the suppliers are, you don't know much about that industry. So yes, the grass may be greener there, but really you're taking yourself back to square one, and I can almost certainly guarantee that there are already competitors in that space. So if you're starting at square one and they're already at square 10, you're putting yourself on the back foot already. So the shiny object syndrome is so tempting, and I keep, as an entrepreneur, I'm seeing opportunities all around. Like even yesterday, I was thinking about, like selling masks and hand sanitizer. That stuff's like red ocean, super competitive right now. So I was like, my mind starts wondering like, well, what would be the next thing that would be a big seller? And I started Googling around coronavirus home testing kits. And I went down this whole rabbit hole of like, whoa, I'm going to go and buy a whole bunch of URLs around coronavirus testing kits. And just for anybody listening to this, all the URLs are available, because certainly home testing kits are going to be a thing. And when they come around, everybody's going to buy that stuff. I want to buy home testing kits. I don't want to go to the clinic or the hospital because maybe I'll get sick there. So like home testing kits will be the next best thing, or like the next big thing. And all the URLs are currently available. So go and buy them. Because I almost bought them all yesterday, and then I was like, Warwick, stay in your zone of genius. Don't go building websites around coronavirus stuff, because you guys have seen me in action. When I build websites, I can do it in under an hour, and I can build websites that will crush anybody else's website. But I understand that every time I go outside of my zone of genius, when I chase shiny objects, it takes away from the building of Ensaka, which is my focus and my passion and my determination. And to end that story that I spoke about earlier, those guys gave me 50% shares in their business. It was actually, honestly, it was 25% shares with a 50% profit share. And after 3 months, I pushed back from the table and I was like, guys, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to you because I'm not growing that business as quick as I want, as I'd like to, if I put in all my time and energy. And at the same time, I feel that Ensaka was being negatively impacted because I wasn't focusing all my time and attention on that. And I had to make a decision. Because I knew that if I wanted one to be successful, then I need to give it my all. I have to go 2 feet in. I have to give it my everything and get into that zone of genius. And for that reason, I actually pulled away from the other business, which was a fantastic deal. Like, geez, what an amazing deal. And now I completely have seen, since I did that and I put my zone of genius into Ensaka, the growth in the community is all just benefiting off the back of that. And I've learned that lesson time and time again, that shiny object syndrome is the curse of entrepreneurship. So if you're looking to make a change in your business, if you're having to pivot, then look within your own industry. Look at opportunities that are within arm's reach. And that's the change you should be making. Do not go put yourself in a new industry where you don't have any network, any foundation, and you don't know anything about it, because you're just going back to square one. And there are going to be competitors there that are going to be much further ahead than you are. So that is the idea that I wanted to share with you guys today. And for those of you that have stuck around to the end of this video, I want to thank you and ask your guys' opinion, because we're looking at making a change in our business, staying within our zone of genius to offer more value. So something that we are kicking around inside Ensaka is the idea of starting a podcast, and to open up a new line of communication to get some ideas together, to take your questions and answer them in an audio format. Podcasts are more popular, and I wanted to ask your guys' opinion. So if you can comment below, would a podcast be a good idea? Would you see value in that? Would you listen to it? And this is something that we're looking at doing to offer extra value to our community and our like all of you guys. So if you think that a e-commerce podcast hosted by me would be something that you would listen to, then drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. If you think it's a waste of time, you'd never listen to me, maybe you've heard too much of my voice already, then put that in the comment too, because we're looking at making that change. And of course, as I've said, these are the changes that we're looking to do within our zone of genius, because this is within arm's reach and we can set that up without too much difficulty, and we want to add more value to you guys. So I want to help us out. Give us your opinion, comment below, let us know if that's something that you'd be interested in listening to. And otherwise, if you're just catching the tail end of this video, go back and start again and watch the replay, because I think it's going to be a good one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll chat to you later.